I'm Megan, and thanks for checking out the somatics class with me. I've got Michael here today, and it's a perfect opportunity to show what happens when we do not have what I call independent suspension of the butt cheeks, otherwise known as the gluteus maximus muscles. And we found when we were doing some somatics earlier that he was having difficulty activating one side of the buttocks and letting the other relax. And this is pretty typical, and we're going to do a test first to see how you do with that. But then we'll also go into some somatic movements that will encourage you to let your nervous system find the ability to engage one side and then the other. And this is really important because when we do things like walking, or we're getting ready to go cross-country skiing, so these are really important muscles. Your gluteus muscles are important muscles of propulsion that bring you forward. And who doesn't want to go forward right now, right? We all want to go forward. So thank you, Michael, for being here today.
Of course.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And well, join me on the mat. I do encourage you to grab a large blanket or whatever you like to sit on, because we're going to do a little bit of seated stuff, and you're going to want to be able to keep the pelvis in a neutral position. All right. So we're going to start down on the ground, though, because the best way to feel your butt cheeks is with the earth underneath them. And I am going to put, this is another thing, it's nice for me to have somebody in here because I can show you maybe at home how to prop yourself. When we have a little bit of tightness across the pectoral area, you'll see the backs of the shoulders lifting off the ground and the head back, the chin away from the chest. We want to have the head in more of a neutral position. So I'm going to do a small blanket roll underneath his neck to support his neck and just bring his head up slightly. So I don't want the chin coming all the way up towards the chest, just in a neutral position. How does that feel?
Feels great.
Okay, good. And I'm actually going to have you bend your knees first, place your feet on the floor in what we call constructive rest. So if I take his leg to 90 degrees, we're going to keep that position, a center of the hip over the knee, or knee over the center of the hip, ankle and knee aligned, and then we just drop the foot down. And you can do the same thing with the other one. Get some cracking in your knee there, and then take it down. All right, so there is our relaxed position. Before we start, we just want to loosen and relax the low back. So take your arms and shoulders, maybe do some soft shoulder rolls. And just gently move your neck around. We'll encourage the upper body to relax into the ground. The more we can feel the ground for this, the easier it's going to be to eventually move. So starting from your left hip, I want you to just feel your left hip. And there's two ways we can move. We can push into or pull away from. So we'll start by thinking of pulling the left hip away from the ground. So you're going to lift it up off the ground, and as you do that, you'll feel the weight go into the right hip. So I want you to lift the left hip up just a little bit. There you go. And then let it come back down. And keep doing just the left side for a few times. Lift it up and let it come back down. So from the back side as you're doing this, you might notice how as you come down, your weight is equally distributed in both sides of the backs of the hips, and your sacrum's in the center. And you'll feel yourself roll through your sacrum and come back down. And note if both sides of the butt cheeks are tightening or just one.
Yes, both sides.
Yes, both sides. Okay. So do one more with the left hip. And then relax for a moment. Also note if there's any tightness in the legs. Try to keep the legs relaxed because we want to focus on using the muscles of the pelvis. And then let's try the right side. So if I had a string on his belt buckle right here, it's like I'm picking up his right hip. So let's go ahead and do the right side. A little more difficulty there?
No, it just makes more sense when you put it that way.
Oh, okay. So good cue. To lift up from your, as if I'm grabbing your belt buckle. So you're pulling away from the ground. If you want to do this to your breath, you can do it, lift up on the inhale and release on the exhale. But otherwise, just finding that movement. Keep the feet soft on the ground, the legs relaxed.
Still squeezing the other cheek, though.
Okay, so both sides of the cheeks are still squeezing. And so that's something you're noting in yourself. Can you see how naturally you're lifting one butt cheek? So this would be the same movement as when walking. One hip is coming forward, and the other is back. So it's a hip rotation. And then we're going to relax. So that was a lifting up. So now we're going to purposely activate the right leg a little bit more, but we're going to lift the left leg. So now think of, in order to lift the left hip, so it's the same movement, you want to push your right hip into the ground. So push in with the right hip, but keep your foot on the ground. Push in with the right hip and to get the left hip up.
Okay.
Keep your foot on the ground.
It's a little weird.
Push into your right hip to lift your left hip up. Think of rolling into your right hip. There you go.
Okay, so am I supposed to be squeezing my left cheek?
Your right cheek. I want you to feel your right cheek as well. Your left cheek might be going, but we're purposely.
No, I can feel my right cheek.
Okay. So you're feeling your right cheek and the left cheek a little bit?
Yes, because I'm still clenching them together.
Okay, relax them both. Pause for a moment. And if you're at home and you feel too much tension building in the back, anytime you can draw your knees and your chest and relax for a moment. So now right hip. Imagine your right hip is light, and you're going to push your left hip down into the earth to get the right hip up. So it's still the rotation.
Man, I'm a clencher. I can't, that's how my body's naturally.
Keep the foot relaxed on the ground. So push into with the left hip to lift up with the right hip. One more. All right. Now we're going to put those two actions together. And the key is for you to find what action is the right balance for you. So there's the action of lifting of the left butt cheek and pushing down with the right. That's because we're going to lift the left side up first. So what proportion or percentage do you need to lift with the left, and what proportion or percentage do you need to push down with the right? You're still going to feel both sides active, in other words, right now, but making it more equally distributed. So now lifting the left side of the hip up by slightly pressing down into the right. And then what's important is when you come down, you can even hold it for a few breaths, come all the way down, relax completely, take a breath. Let everything go. So if we have an issue of what we call sensory motor amnesia, and because these are muscles that can also often lock up and not release, especially if you feel that band of tightness across the low back, oftentimes that's the gluteal muscles, you want to make sure they're releasing. So then come up again by lifting left and pushing down with right. So you're lifting away from the ground with the left and pushing down with the right. But you're going to fine-tune it to find the right combination of those two movements for you that feels like you're using both sides equally.
Should I be engaging my core?
If it happens, that's fine.
That's
yes
what I'm
or not.
finding
Yep.
make it work.
If you're engaging your core, then we would do it on an exhalation. Lift on an exhalation if you feel your core engaging. So exhale, draw in. There you go. Which is great. You can add the core. And when we add the core on the exhalation, you might also feel pelvic floor, because that's all still part of the pelvic bowl, and that's what we're focusing on.
Absolutely. I can tell.
So that might be part of your balance, is bringing the core muscles in, and that's good. That's a good sign. We want that. Yay. So if you're at home and you're feeling that, that's great. Let's do one more with the left hip, one or two more. Take your time. Do a couple where you hold it and really feel when you're up there and you're engaged, is there a equality in the two cheeks? Or is one doing all the work? So we want both to work. Initially, we were just seeing what they did naturally. Now we're trying to get both to work. All right, and then come back down, relax for a moment. All right. Next
so
one.
But it's not.
It's not as easy as it looks, right? So now we're going to work with the right side, getting that up in the air slightly, or it's a rotation, right hip rotating forward, left hip back. If you were walking, your right leg would be forward, your left leg back. You can think of it like walking, right? But the legs are staying relaxed, moving from the pelvis, and finding that combination of lifting or pulling away from the earth with the right hip and pushing into the earth with the left hip. What's the good combination for you to get that rotation? If you've ever seen people that have a real swagger to their walk, that's the pelvis doing that back and forth. I know I have the camera lower. I'd do my swagger for you. Maybe another video. Stay tuned. Go slow, hold it at the top. Are you finding the core is engaging on this side?
Yeah, I have to fight to keep my legs from engaging is my thing.
Yep. Okay, so really focus on the circumference of the pelvis doing this movement. Legs stay. So one of the ways you can help to do that is keep your feet relaxed, soften your toes, feel the ground underneath your feet, and the weight of your legs are supported by the ground.
That really helps.
Yeah. And then just that good combination of pushing into with the left hip and pulling away from the earth with the right hip. Maybe you're finding
that
core.
feels better.
Yeah, maybe and if you're using your core muscles, then I encourage you to lift on the on the exhalation, because that's the drawing in of the abdomen. Does that help?
Makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, if we try to lift, if we're using our core muscles and we're trying to lift on the inhalation, the belly's expanded because the diaphragm presses down. So we want to take the exhalation, diaphragm actually draws up and relaxes and the abdominal muscles contract. That's the relationship between diaphragm and abdomen, is on inhalation, diaphragm contracts and comes downward, making your belly bulge. On exhalation, diaphragm relaxes, kind of slides upward, and your abdomen will recoil in.
That actually feels like I have independence.
Okay.
Do it that way.
Feels better?
Yeah.
All right. So now go ahead and hug your knees into your chest and maybe just relax your low back, stretch the low back. So you can keep your head down though, unless that feels good to lift your head. Okay, lift your head then.
I'm a stiff guy.
This is independent suspension for stiff guys.
The requisite stiff guy.
Okay. So now I'm going to have you take your head back down. Place your feet on the ground. We're going to slide out just the left leg first so you can see. And notice as you're sliding out that what we don't want is the low back to lift a lot. Did it lift a lot, or does it feel okay? So we're going to keep this right leg where it is. So I want you to feel just that whole left leg line. You can visualize it from the toes all the way up to the rim of the hip, front and back, the whole left leg line. And then you're going to push the heel forward, draw the top of the foot towards your shin. Notice how all your leg muscles activated. So now we are asking you to use your leg muscles too. Before we didn't want it. We were just using the pelvic muscles. So tighten the leg and then just release it. You can even shake it out. Just tighten the leg muscles. And you can do that on an inhale or an exhale. We're not going to do breath focus today. Just feel it. Notice as you're doing this, do you feel any action in your glutes and your buttocks?
Yes.
And do you feel it in just the left side or in the right as well?
Just the left.
Just the left. See what you feel at home. This is good. This is good. So we're going to add just a little bit to this. Right leg is on holiday. It's taking a ski vacation. It's doing whatever it wants to do. This is just about your left leg. So now you're going to do that same action of pressing your heel forward, drawing the top of the foot so you engage the leg muscles. And then you're going to lift the leg line off the ground just a little bit. You're going to feel a little more quadricep, but you feel the glutes. Make sure you're still breathing. And then slowly let it come down. Shake it out. Shake it out. Let it relax completely. So we want to do this. One of the reasons I'm not cueing breath is because I don't want it to be an inhale up, exhale down. Lift it up, hold it for a few breaths. Notice what you feel. Is the right side staying relaxed? Is the left side engaged? All the way from the foot through the buttocks.
Pretty good, yeah.
And then letting it go, letting it relax. Nice. One of the things you can do to play with this, just feeling different muscle lines in the leg, is if I have you turn your toes slightly outward, still drawing in and pushing. Notice what that feels like. A little different.
Doesn't feel like my glutes as much.
Okay. Less glutes there, which makes sense. Now we're going to have him, and you can do the same thing, turn your toes inward so your thigh bone is rolling inward, internal rotation. And this should activate those outer glutes a little bit more too. Now go ahead and lift.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more glutage.
Yes.
Way glutage. We're getting a way glutage.
Maximum glutification.
I think we're going to be coining some new terms in this one.
Nice.
Maximum glutification. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
All right, hopefully you're getting maximum glutification at home. Nice. Right side still on holiday? Yeah, check it out.
Kind of snuck in there.
All right. So play with your leg internally and externally rotating the thigh bone. Now, let's go back to what we did in the first one. Relax the leg for just a moment. We're going to keep playing with this leg. But
I feel it a lot more after doing an internal rotation, and then when I go back to the external, I could feel it again.
It was
I could
awake.
Feel it there,
Yeah.
where it wasn't there before.
So what happens is we wake up the muscles, but what I try to do is have you do it in your most natural way first. What do you feel without me giving you a lot of cues? Like what naturally occurs? And then we do things to help to turn those muscles on, also learn to release them. So continuing with that, turning them on, what I had you do was start from your foot and lifting your leg to activate. Now, so that was a pull away from. Just like when we did with the hips, we were having you lift the hip. Now we're going to do a pull away from and a push into. So I want you to simultaneously press through your heel, draw the top of the foot towards your shin. I want you to pull away from with the leg, but push into with the buttocks just a little bit. Push the
On the
left side. Right side still on holiday.
That's easy.
We'll go ahead and do it.
For me, I just did.
And what other muscles does it feel different though? More in the abdominal area, less in the glutes.
More abdominal.
Yeah, so that's going to help to engage the abdominal area. So then you might want to do that on an exhalation, draw in through the abdomen. So think of I like to imagine that the leg is like a pendulum coming off of your pelvis. And your pelvis includes your lower abdominal muscles. So feel the support of the pelvis as you pendulum the leg up, lifting it up, and then letting it come back down. So pushing into, pulling away from, now finding that combination that works right. So when we're finding the combination, a couple of reasons we do that is that it shows that we can make the same movement with different muscle patterns. We want to be able to do it just like internally or externally rotating the leg, so you can be playing with that too. But if we can make this same movement with different muscles, we're waking up the nervous system, right? That's the whole key, is that we're waking up. We're not using the same muscles and over, and that's what the nervous system typically makes us do. That it goes to the first responders. It goes to what it knows best. So we're really trying to find new movement patterns or new muscles to make the same movement patterns. And the other reason, let's do a couple more, you're pushing into and pulling away from, is that we want to make this movement, this is the important part here, with as little strain as possible. So if I see your teeth gritting or your head lifting, your shoulders tightening, any tension building anywhere else in the body, I know we're overdoing it. You may or may not have those things happening. But if the objective is just to get the leg off the ground, now what's the most easeful way to do that? How much lifting do you need and how much pushing in do you need?
Yeah, I found I was tightening my leg a lot as a natural response.
More than you needed to?
Right, and
Okay.
then I can relax it.
Yeah.
And that's better.
So that's the first part is how do we naturally move it? The second part is doing some things to wake up the muscles. And then the third part is how can we make this movement with the most freedom? And remembering that muscles are their strongest, not when they are completely contracted, it's actually in the middle. Muscles are their strongest when they're in the middle. So that's really important to remember.
Good to know.
You don't have to tighten, I can have a fist like this is just as successful as a fist like this, but that tight fist really hurts, right? So, all right.
Makes sense.
Let's take that leg in. Actually, let's take your right leg out too. Let's take both legs out for a moment and just let them relax. And just take a moment to notice the two sides of the body. This is a really important part of somatics. Just feeling. Sense the space from the toes to the hips, right and left. And even just describing to yourself, and I like to use detailed words, but describing to yourself any differences that you might feel. There might be a sense of fatigue or lightness or heaviness, more awareness of one leg than the other.
Well, the left one
You don't know? Any words? Any descriptive words? How does it feel different than the right?
It feels like it's been moving and it's been activated, and this one doesn't.
Okay. More alive?
Yeah, more alive.
Okay. So you at home, do this. This is a really important part because even though the legs look the same, your nervous system is remapping your body right now. You just had this whole experience of using muscles differently and maybe waking some muscles up. And so now your brain is remembering that. And it's remembering it because it likes to compare. It likes to be busy, and it likes to compare the two sides. All right, so we're going to do the right leg now. So please start by bending both knees and place the feet on the floor. Make sure your low back is long and relaxed. We want to keep the low back long, shoulders relaxed, shoulder blades, the head. And then we'll try to keep the low back on the ground, so sliding out the right leg slowly. There we go. Yeah, just let it shake out. So now the left leg is on holiday. And you may need to remind it of that, especially because now it's all active and ready to go. But we'll come into the right leg. You're going to push the heel forward, draw the top of the foot back. So this is dorsiflexion for the ankle. And just feel that first, and then release it. We're not even lifting it. You're just taking that ankle into dorsiflexion. And notice what you feel all the way up the leg line, from the toes through the pelvis. Is there any action in the back of the pelvis, in your butt cheek?
Yes.
Just so note, that's amazing always to me. All he's doing is changing the position of his ankle, pushing through the foot. This is something we do every time we're in our car and we press on the brake, right? Or the gas, every time our foot hits the ground. So what do you feel? What naturally occurs when you take that ankle into dorsiflexion? Does it go all the way up the leg line? And then relax it for a moment. Make sure it's relaxing too, yeah? Now we'll add on to that. So you're going to take that ankle into dorsiflexion, feel the muscles engage on the leg line, and then even if you just lift the heel up a half an inch, it doesn't have to come very high. In fact, I like to experiment with lift it as high as you can, your end point of movement, and maybe just lifting it an inch. You're going to feel the muscles differently.
Yeah, it's all about my core.
So you're feeling your core trying to help?
Otherwise, I'm doing both.
Doing both legs.
Both glutes.
Both glutes. Okay, so hopefully you heard what he said is he's noticing he's trying to do both glutes unless his core is active. So then I'm going to encourage you to lift your leg up on the exhalation.
It makes all the difference.
Yeah, so you can keep that left side sitting on the beach somewhere. And relaxing the right side when it comes down. Important. Yeah. And the using of the core that's the transversus abdominis. It's all these muscles across. It's the core set of muscles across your belly. And it's on the exhalation, we have this ability to draw in. It's like your navel center is trying to hug the front of your spine, and then we release it. Same thing with the pelvic floor muscles. There's a diamond shape of muscles that draws in, recoils into the body on the exhalation. Should do it naturally, but sometimes we need to give it a little hint, a little boost. So you're really getting this leg up mostly by pulling away from.
Right.
Yeah, and checking to see the rest of the body stays relaxed. There's no tension building in the shoulders or the neck, anywhere else. You do one more. And if you're doing this at home, remember to some that are a little bit longer holds. So you have time to check out both sides, what's happening. And then a nice slow release all the way to that last 10%. Let it go. Okay, so now we're going to add in the push into. So the right butt cheek is going to push into the ground simultaneously while the right leg is lifting. And you want to experience the right combination for you. Does that feel different to push down through the right hip, or the back of the right hip into the ground?
Yes.
May I ask how so?
Less tension in my leg.
Okay.
More.
Less tension in your leg. So can I say then it would be distributing the muscle work more evenly?
Yeah, before
Okay.
it was more in my calf, now it's more in my thigh.
Okay. Is it more easeful?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what we're looking for, equal distribution of muscles and more easeful. So you're playing with this at home. You're still taking that ankle into dorsiflexion, lifting up, pushing the buttocks in, and letting it come down. And then the other thing we played with that we haven't done yet, and you can do this with pushing the butt cheek down, lifting the leg, so pulling away from and pushing into, is externally rotate the thigh for a moment. And then notice what happens. Does that depower the glutes? So roll the toes out.
More glute, actually.
You feel more glute. Interesting. The other side you didn't. Okay. And then roll your toes inward. Internal rotation of the thigh. Do the same thing. That's how your core go.
Zero glute, all core.
Interesting. So in this case, the results have been very imbalanced. No, not disturbing. There's definitely, it's not a right or wrong, but it's different, right? Last, on the other leg, when he internally rotated, he felt a lot more glute. This time he's feeling core. So we just notice that there might be some asymmetries in the two hips and the leg lines.
Seems like they were both better when they were to the outside.
Outside?
Yeah.
What's most important is what's better is what's most freeing for your body. What gets the leg up with as little effort as possible.
Yeah, that's all glute right there. That's with it out.
Okay.
That's crazy how different that is.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just playing with that, and you're playing with it at home.
I feel like I'm learning how to walk all over again.
Fantastic. One more. And we'll shake it out, let it relax. Feel free to hug your knees into your chest, or maybe do some windshield wipers if that feels better for you.
My back's a little tight.
Yeah, let your back relax. If you're at home and you like the pelvic tilting, you can do a couple pelvic tilts to let the back relax. And remember, that's just as important, getting those glute muscles. You don't want that tight, just that tight band across the low back. Okay, so we're going to roll to one side, and we're going to come up to a seated position next.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to have you turn sideways. Yep, I'm going to have you take your feet out this way so they can see. So we're going to let him sit with his legs extended. Maybe moved this way just a wee bit. That's great. Okay, right there. And I just want to note that quit fixing yourself. He's fixing himself. But he's a little bit far back towards his tailbone and his sacrum. So the pelvis is tilting back. So what we want to do is bring the pelvis into more of a neutral position. We're not trying to tilt it forward, but bring it a little bit more forward to bring it into neutral. So I'm going to take a blanket, and you can do this at home. Everybody's got blankets. I'm going to fold it so the corner is facing right in between his butt cheeks. And then I'm going to have him sit all the way on it at first, so he's got lots of padding underneath his butt cheeks. But then what we're going to do is we're going to slide. So go ahead and sit there for a moment. At this point, you could still fall back on your tailbone. And if you just go and do that for me, notice how he can kind of slump into the low back still. So you're going to want to slide forward towards the corner until basically the edge of the blanket will be right on the edge of the thighs until you feel like you can't slump. It'll hold your pelvis in more of a neutral position. Can you feel that? Are you able to slump? No. So that was him trying to slump. Can't happen now. Yeah, and you can bend your knees a little bit. If you find if you're tighter through your hamstrings in this one, because we're coming to a seated position, what you can do is roll a second blanket, and put it underneath the knees. Is that better? Yeah? Okay. So shake it out for a moment. Just shake your legs out. And then you're going to take your hands to your sides. You've got the left hip facing them, so we'll start the left hip. And all we're going to do is, I'm showing the opposite hip, but you're going to lift that left hip up and roll onto your right hip. So the same thing we did when we were on our back. Maybe spread your hands a little bit wider. Lift it up, and then let it come down. See if you can keep your heel on the ground. lift just the hip. So you're rotating onto that right hip. What's going on?
These exercises make me feel like I can't control my body, which I can usually control my body pretty well.
Well,
It's
it
just
happens.
a little humbling.
Okay, that's okay. Remember, there's no end pose. There's nothing like that.
I know.
It's
my body?
experiential.
Right.
Yeah. Embodiment just means holding, the whole idea of holding space for yourself, and whatever comes up, you can say interesting. That's my favorite term. Yeah. So we're doing the pulling away from the ground with the left hip. You're lifting the left hip away from the ground. And just noticing naturally what's occurring. Where do you feel tightness in both sides?
No, it's more on my right glute is engaging.
Interesting. Okay.
I know, I'm weird.
So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get that left hip off the ground, but I want you to think of pushing the right hip down and even the right leg line. If you want, we can try it without the blanket underneath there too. You might find more power, but yeah. So pushing the right leg line down into the ground, push into to lift the left leg up.
Double clench. Sorry.
Both sides?
Yeah, I was tightening this leg too. So.
Well, that's okay. We're just experimenting. You're just there's not a right or wrong. You're noticing. How are you able to accomplish this? What muscles are doing this for you? This is not a right or wrong. Okay, relax for a second. Yep, there you go. You can even just fall forward. So we've done the left hip lifting away from, and we've lifted the left hip by pushing into. So now we're going to do those two things, and you want to find what is going to accomplish the movement in a way that is most comfortable. So it might be a little bit of pushing into the right and a little bit of lifting up of the left. And letting it all go when you come back.
Yeah, works better if I don't engage my legs.
Okay. So working from the pelvis.
Mm-hmm. And my core.
And core. Nice. So are we feeling both butt cheeks helping to lift? Or just one? Both a little bit?
Right.
More right, more at the bottom. Okay. It's all right.
I'm confounding, I know.
So just stick with us here for a minute. We're still just seeing what happens naturally. All right, and then let's take that one down, last one. I'm going to take the blanket out and have you bend your knees, place your feet on the floor, and just give yourself a hug like this for a moment. Let the low back relax, wherever your legs are most comfortable. Yeah, you can let your head fall. Breathe into that. Soften the low back. Make space in the shoulder blades. Feel your sits bones. All right, let's do the second side. So you can take the legs out again. And I know you like the blanket, so we're going to put the blanket underneath the knees. Once you get them out there, just shake the legs out. Just give them a little jelly roll. Check to see you're still in the right spot in your pelvis, so we're not falling back, right? We don't want to fall back towards the tailbone. You want to tilt that pelvis slightly forward. There you go. Just relax for a moment. Let everything hang out. There you go. So now we want to get the right hip off the ground. So it's a rotation. So you can see how it happens naturally first, or you can try to lift the right hip. Typically what we do is try to lift the right hip.
And I'm keeping my foot on the ground this time.
Yes, your right foot stays on the ground. So you're just rotating to the left. And I like to think of it, so you start from a place where both butt cheeks are on the ground or on the blanket. You can feel both sits bones. Feel yourself from your sits bones. And then rolling onto that left sits bone. And then coming back onto both sits bones. Right?
Yeah,
Feel it from there.
No engagement though with my glutes. Doing it that way.
Okay. Feeling your sits bones.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we found something out. It's less tension when he's moving from his sits bones. So that's something you might want to try at home. But we're still working on lifting up from the right. Now let's add the pushing into. So you're still going to lift from the right, but see what happens if you push into the left leg line. So you're going to feel more active through your left. Yeah, so the left leg will push in as the right hip lifts. So sometimes things happen that I don't even know. You know, the whole thing with feeling yourself from the sits bones makes sense because you're grounded. You're more grounded when you're down there. And then working towards that combination of pulling. So everything in our body, our brain, our nervous system reads us from a point of gravity. So it's thinking, how can I use the earth to pull away from and push into to make this movement? That's if I were to take your brain and say this is a toddler brain of learning when we're first learning how to move, it's using the ground. We use the ground and we feel the ground. And our body relative to ground is how we learn to move. So pushing into the ground or pulling away from the ground, and maybe a combination. Getting tight? Yeah. Ready to relax? Okay. Relax the back. Okay. So the next one we're going to do, we're going to come on to our front side. So if you want extra padding on your blanket or on your mat, you can spread your blanket out. I'm going to remove this from underneath you.
How you want my arms like this?
Yeah, we're actually going to add the arms in because sometimes it helps to get the glutes firing correctly. So just relax there for a moment. You can shift your hips side to side. You can even, if you want to bend your knees, take your feet up towards the sky and let your legs rock side to side. So you can really feel the fronts of the hips and the thighs relaxing. You know, we're in a whole new position for the body now. Front body fully supported by the ground. And let yourself be in that position. And then I'm going to have you slide your left arm your left arm out slightly till about right here. And then you're going to take your right arm to your side so your forehead's on the ground. And right arm, typically palm up is going to be most comfortable. You're going to turn your head so you're looking at your left hand. Okay. So onto your right cheek. Does that feel okay? Maybe bring the hand a little bit closer. Okay, yeah, make it comfortable. A little bit closer. So we're actually going to start with the upper body because this is part of our cross body movement. So we learn to crawl before we learn to walk. So the way we activate our body is actually from the left shoulder to the right hip. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to let the left shoulder and right hip talk to each other. So in other words, we're trying to get the right butt cheek, that independent suspension going, but we're going to use the upper body to help wake it up. So we're going to keep this left arm right about where it is. And if you want to do this to the breath, keep your hand on the ground, and as you breathe in, lift just the left elbow off the ground. Nice. And then take it back down. Something we want to check with this is go ahead and push your hand into the ground to lift the elbow. See what that feels like. Okay. Now keep the hand soft on the ground and imagine lifting the elbow from the shoulder blade. So you want to use the upper back as opposed to the arm. Nice. Does that feel different?
Oh, yeah.
A lot different.
Way easier.
Easier. Nice. So we're going to lift up that left elbow from the shoulder blade. Nice. Take your time. You can go to your end point and hold it there for a few breaths if you want. All right, last one with the elbow. Now you're going to keep your head gazing in that direction. Arm's going to stay where it is. The whole rest of the body's going to stay where it is. And you're going to lift your ear off the ground. So your right ear is going to come up. You're just going to lift your head slightly, and you want to feel your neck muscles. The neck is important in this movement too, always important. And then come down. Remember, all of your nerves that branch out to your entire body have to go through the neck. It's a super highway of the nervous system. So just slightly lifting the cheek and then letting it come back down and relaxing. One of the things I find that's helpful is to do the head to both sides. So next time you come down, go ahead and turn onto your left cheek. Just pause for a moment. There you go. Let the shoulders relax. And when you're ready, do a couple head lifts, lifting, looking over the right shoulder instead of the left. And notice, so something I noticed in him, and you may see at home, is that did the body tighten more when you switched to the other side? I don't know if you noticed, you tried to activate your legs and your glutes quite a bit more when you turned your head. We're really trying to focus. I want you to keep this relaxed. So really just the neck muscles. We want to isolate the neck muscles. Just the neck muscles. Even if we barely lift, that's okay. And then come back down. All right, now turn your head back towards, so it's just a little test to see. To head back. Now you're going to slide the left hand until it's underneath your right cheek. Slide the left hand in. So you're going to rest your, there you go. So now this arm, upper back, shoulder area, that's where you're getting your stability from, and the neck muscles are all one unit. So as you breathe in, you're going to lift your forearm and your shoulder and your head off the ground, keeping the cheek on the back of the hand. And exhale, come down. Take your time. So what we want to try to do, if we pattern this, we want to help the pattern along, is keep the right shoulder and arm relaxed. If you feel your right shoulder blade tightening, try to get it to relax. You might even come up and hold for a few breaths. But then beyond that is we want to see what's happening with that cross pattern. So as you're lifting through the left shoulder blade and the neck is coming up, do you feel anything in your lower body? Particularly around the waistline and the butt cheeks. And I can see it happening. Maybe you can. So what do you feel?
That's helping. It's tightening.
What's tightening?
This band and this butt cheek.
You're getting left butt cheek. Yeah, we want right. Cross body. So this is what we call, that's okay. It's 50% of my clients I see this. This is what I have named butt cheek confusion. So we're not getting the cross body. So what we really want is the left shoulder to talk to the right butt cheek. So if you may, as you're lifting up, try to purposely squeeze your right butt cheek.
All right, that worked.
All right.
That's what we were trying to do.
Well, that's because I didn't tell you, because I didn't want you to try anything. We always want to see what happens, what occurs naturally first. You're still working that left one. Relax.
The last one was really good.
There you go. You're lifting your left leg up.
I'm not supposed to.
No, your left leg and right shoulder are completely relaxed. If you see yourself in an X pattern, visualize from the left shoulder to the right hip. Left shoulder, right hip active, and then releasing as you come down. All right.
Yeah, that's working.
Okay, so now we're going to leave the upper body where it is, and I want you to picture your right leg line all the way from the toes to the rim of the hip. We want to activate the leg, and when we were on our front side, we activated the leg by bringing the foot into dorsiflexion. Yeah, feel free to stretch your ankle out, or if you need to swing your legs in between, do that. Now we want to point the toes, and I want you to reach the big toe, so you're going to take your foot into plantar flexion, just the opposite, top of the foot down. You're going to reach your big toe away from you. That's going to engage your leg, right? Do you feel how that's engaging your leg, just reaching the big toe? And then let that go. Just do that for a moment. All right. And then keep reaching the toe, but push the thigh bone slightly into the ground, just the right side. Push it down. Do you feel a little more action in your hamstrings and your glutes when you do that?
Yeah.
All right, so we're already getting action and is it just the right side?
Yay.
Just the right side. You're reaching your big toe back, pushing the thigh bone in the front of the pelvis into the ground. And we're feeling just right. Just right line, whole right line from the waist to the toes. So once you're feeling just the right line, not the left, then you can add the lifting away from. Right now we're pushing into. We're reaching, pushing into. So push into and then lift up. When you lift up, you want to make sure you don't bend the knee. Think of lifting from the thigh, not your left leg.
Oh, sorry.
And I don't want you to do your upper body, just your leg.
Oh, this is my left.
Just your right leg. Just the right leg. Here, I'm going to put... So I can see that he's cramping because he's rolling his left toes under, and that means he's having a hard time relaxing it. So what we're going to do, and you can do this at home, put your foot down, is put a blanket underneath. Is that better?
Yeah.
Now shake it out. Okay. Now you can focus on your right side. Just getting from the waist to the toes on the right leg. That's all it is, isolating that engagement. Are you feeling your left butt cheek?
No, I'm feeling my right butt cheek.
Just the right butt cheek, sweet. If not, you go back to pushing the thigh into the ground first, right? So now, let's let that right hip talk to the left shoulder. So we do the whole thing. You'll simultaneously lift your right leg and your left arm and head. Not your left head, your head. Bad joke. Okay, there. And feel that cross body patterning from left shoulder to right butt cheek. I wonder how many times I'm saying butt in this video. Nice. And so as much as we're checking to see what's engaging, left upper body to lower right body, you also want to see what's staying relaxed. Left lower body to right upper body. And I see a lot of tightening in his right shoulder. So it's just a reminder, do your best. Independent suspension going on here?
Yeah.
We got it. And so we're going to let you in on a secret. I did something similar to this with him in the very beginning. I couldn't do anything on this front side to get just one side of the butt to clench. We were getting the full clench to the middle with both cheeks. So I know it's working. That easy. Snap, and it's done. All right, let's take a moment to rest. And if in the rest, if you're not completely comfortable on your belly, you can take your legs up and swing them again or reposition your upper body. But if you feel like you need to push back to a child's pose or anything else, feel free to do that. Well, that's a lot. This is our last movement, though. Loving that independent suspension, right?
I didn't think I could do it.
Success. If you have success with this video, write a comment for us because we appreciate that. Any cues that were really good for you. Okay, so yeah, look at you go. So remember, now we're going to relax the upper left side of the body. So you want to take your left arm down to your side, all the way down. That's on holiday. Shake it out. And we actually start with the right hand in a 90-degree angle. Yeah, so the hand doesn't need to be under the cheek yet. And you can shake out the legs, shift your hips side to side. So you can feel the support of the ground. Feel the earth. Let your body feel the earth underneath the front of the pelvis, the thighs. Do you want the blanket under both ankles? Oh, you got it already.
Please.
There you go. So we're blanketing the ankles so it's a little more comfortable for him. And we start with just lifting the right elbow off the ground. Notice how you even have to think about that, right? It's like, where's my right elbow?
Why is that?
Well, and then just to show what we don't want to do, go ahead and push that right hand into the ground and lift your right elbow from the strength of the arm. And your head's lifting too, I noticed. So I can see that he was really straining to do that. Clench and strain. So now, lift your right elbow from your right shoulder blade, your upper back, so strong, so different. Look at your head staying relaxed, your jaw.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy, there you go. You heard it here first. Easy peasy. Just airing out the armpit like nobody's business.
You're in the firing zone.
Nice. But I can see these muscles firing. And I can see that the left side is staying relaxed, which, by the way, I'm just going to point something out for you and for everybody at home. When we were doing just the elbow on the other side, his right arm was firing the whole time, even though we were working on the left side. So that tells me there's a little bit of an imbalance, that you have a lot of chronic tightness in your right shoulder that is not on the left side. Left side doesn't seem to have any problem taking its nap when it's supposed to. Right side has been overworked. So I would focus on trying to relax the right side more. So now we're going to do just the head. You're going to leave your arm where it is, and when you're ready, and if you want to do it to your breath, you can lift on the inhalation. You're going to lift just your cheek, your left cheek, slightly off the ground, and then come back down. And as you're lifting the head, you're thinking you're using the neck muscles, but also notice if anything else triggers in the body, any other muscles. Are they triggering to try to lift the weight of the head off the ground? 12 pounds of head there.
I got a big neck.
And then we're going to switch just to check, because sometimes the two sides are different depending on our gaze. You're going to turn onto your right cheek. You got it? Take a moment to feel the ground underneath that right cheek, and then lift again. And just imagine that you're taking inventory on the whole body, observing the whole body. Where else do you feel this, if anywhere?
Core.
Core, interesting. That's why I say interesting, because you at home may have a very different experience. This is about you finding what muscles trigger automatically when you do certain movements. Everybody's going to have a little bit different experience, because our muscle patterns are not the same. Nice, and then coming back. Neck getting tight, okay. So now we slide the right hand in underneath the left cheek. You're back to looking out at the right elbow. And we want to feel this like one unit, wrapping all the way around from the right shoulder through the elbow, and then the cheek is on the hand. And when you're ready, you're going to lift the entire arm and head off the ground. But think of using that right shoulder blade area. And notice what's, more obvious in the upper body, where you're feeling that first. In the right shoulder area. Nice. And I know that right shoulder wants to go because it was trying to go when it wasn't supposed to. So I'm not concerned about that. It's hyper vigilant.
I'm right-handed.
Yep, you're right-handed. And he happens to be a musician, so arms, hands, shoulders, very important. All right. But I also want you to notice what's going on in the lower body, if anything. You still have an ankle.
Aside from my feet cramping?
Yeah, your feet are cramping. There we go. Let's roll that under a little more. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So as you're lifting the right shoulder, what do you feel in the lower body, if anything? And I can see it.
Right glute.
Right glute?
Yeah, you think it was my left?
Yes. You're feeling this side.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm seeing your left side. At home, what are you seeing? I'm seeing left side. I'm seeing left leg even lift off the ground. But you're feeling right. Interesting.
All right, I feel it left when I don't lift my leg up. Sorry.
It's okay. You see, and that's the thing, is that what is actually happening and how our nervous system maps it, what we call body mapping, they get confused. So you actually are doing it correctly. You're feeling it incorrect. Your experience is different than what's actually happening. That's not unusual. Okay? Lift up for one and just hold for a few breaths. Now, what do you feel on your left butt cheek, and what do you feel on your right? Tight through the left. Nice. All right, go ahead and come down. Relax. Okay. So now we're going to work on getting a little more active through that left leg line, meaning all the way through the hamstrings and the glutes. So first, just reach the left big toe away from you. So you do want to reach the toe and take that foot into what we call plantar flexion, so top of the ankle stretching.
Oh, feels good.
And then relax it. Yep.
Well, it pulls out from here. So.
Good. I'm going to adjust you a little bit, though. You're kind of there. So now you're more centered on your pelvis. He had way too much weight going into the left hip. So now you're centered. So now I also want you to reach your toe and also push the top of the left thigh into the ground. So use the ground. Let your body feel you from the ground by pushing into it. Activate the muscles by pushing into it. How's that feel?
Confusing.
Confusing. Interesting. Why is that?
Well, because it's not normal for me to push my thigh,
thigh down. Yeah.
Lift my foot up.
Okay. Well, we're not lifting yet. You're reaching.
Oh,
You're just reaching through the left leg and pushing the left thigh into the ground. That's okay. Reaching with the left leg and pushing left thigh into the ground. So you're feeling your hamstrings and your glutes.
Yeah.
Make that action. Okay. And are you feeling it in the right side?
Yes.
Okay, we don't want to feel the right side. So before we lift the leg, so I'm not going to have him lift the left leg up yet until he can reach the big toe and in the left leg and push the thigh down. Just activate that left side. So really focusing on isolating that left side and keeping the right side relaxed. Is that, I see more of a relaxation on the right
Yes, I
side.
did it.
Okay, you did it.
I did it.
Okay, so then the next step, once we can do that, is then we lift the whole left leg line up, and that's gonna require more contraction of the hamstrings and the glutes. But we want to make sure it's just the left side, that the right side is taking a little beach vacation. Shake it out. There you go.
Go on vacation.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's better.
What I'm seeing is much better than before we were on camera. And I decided we're going to do a butt cheek confusion class because this is really, really common. I see this all the time. My students out there, you know, we do a lot of butt cheek confusion work here. Nice. So now we've got this great muscular awareness and control of the left leg and butt cheek, right cheek on holiday. So we put it together, visualizing that crossbody pattern from the right shoulder to the left buttocks. Whenever you're ready. And releasing. Beautiful. And it's not a question of how high we go. You don't have to go to your end point. It's help your body, help your nervous system by visualizing this energy between, this communication between your right shoulder and your left hip. And then on the flip side, right hip, left shoulder, relaxing, taking a nap. Nice. You got it. Yay. He's going to be ready to cross-country ski. That's it. All right, and then pause and let go. Feel free to push yourself back into child's pose or roll on your back or hug your knees in. Awesome. So that's it for our tricks for today for butt cheek confusion practice. If you'd like to go onto your back and relax for a moment, we'll do a final relaxation if you want to stick with us. And I'm going to do your neck roll. So we were working the glutes and all of that stuff, so I really like to make sure that your back and spine are relaxed. So I highly recommend if you've got somebody there, they can do this for you. You can do it for yourself. Put something underneath your knees, unless you prefer to keep your knees bent. I would put that underneath your knees. Go ahead and take your legs out long. Tell me if that's in the right spot. Shake your legs out. Maybe even dribble your knees like basketballs. Yeah. And then I'm going to take this blanket for your head. Although, go ahead and drop down. Something you may not notice on camera, and this is the really beautiful, amazing thing about somatics, is that we didn't work on the neck technically. We did the neck lifts, but we were really focusing on pelvis, right? I can still see now that his chin is closer to his chest. So we have, by working on the pelvis, corrected some imbalance in the neck, which is pretty amazing to me. I love seeing that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, I'm going to give you just a little bit of a neck roll underneath. How's that feel?
That's good.
Good. And wherever you want your arms, wherever your shoulders are most relaxed, arms can be at your sides or on your body, palms up or down. I'm going to fluff you just slightly, like to fluff. And before we go fully into relaxation, and this is the thing, once we've got all this energy worked out, and you've got that butt cheek confusion cleared up, then the really simple thing is you can do this like when you're sitting in your car seat or something. So as you're lying here now, feel your right gluteal maximus and your left gluteal maximus and how they're so sweetly touching the earth and fully relaxed. And maybe ask them to just do a nice, gentle dance, squeezing one and then the other. See if you can squeeze that right one just a little bit and let it go. And then the left one, just a little bit and let it go. Just a little bit of focus.
Hey, I got the left one.
We got the left one. This is an accomplishment because we could not do this at all before we started all this. So, but we're going to let you go into relaxation. But try this at home. Can you now just, at will, squeeze one butt cheek and then the other? And remember, in the squeezing, the other half of that is the relaxation. Especially important right now at the end of class. And then go ahead and we're going to tighten everything up before we go into relaxation. I want you to point your toes and your kneecaps up towards the sky. Draw the tops of the feet towards your shin bones. Press your heels forwards. Tighten all the muscles in the legs. Squeeze both butt cheeks towards one another. Squeeze everything as tight as you can. You can even squeeze your shoulders and your arms if you want. Squeeze everything in your body, in and in. Take a big breath in and then sigh out the mouth and let everything go. And if that felt good, you can do it again. And just be present anywhere in the pelvis. Feel the parts of the back body that are touching the ground. And without forcing them into the ground, just let the ground come up around you. Any parts of the body that aren't touching the earth, just releasing a little bit more with each breath out. Releasing into the ground. Feeling the way that the pelvis stabilizes your legs, your torso. Allowing the arms and the legs to relax. But also recognizing these strong muscles of propulsion and bring us forward. You can breathe anywhere in and around your pelvis. Notice, is it easier to image or experience the right side of the pelvis or the left side? Does it feel like there's more weight in one side than the other? Or is one side of the pelvis lighter or heavier? And as you go out throughout the day today, check in every now and again, because now you've got some new awareness. You've gained awareness of these beautiful, powerful muscles that we sit on for much of our lives. Notice what they're doing for you. When do you feel them activate? When do you feel them relax? If you're walking, the buttocks muscles should be actively contracting in the back leg. They stretch and release in the front leg in your gait. And letting your whole pelvis be free to find that rotational movement that we did. Begin to breathe into the low abdomen. Taking some nice soft breaths into the belly. Feel the abdomen moving with the breath. And once you felt that, if you want to stay here longer for your relaxation, you're welcome to. When you're ready to come out, it might feel nice to take a full body stretch, taking your arms up overhead, reaching through your toes, or drawing your knees into your chest, stretching your low back. It doesn't have to be an or, it could be an and, both. And if you are finishing your practice, feel free to roll to one side and pause before coming back up. Want this guy? Thank you for joining Michael and I today for this independent suspension class. I hope you learned a little bit, and I certainly hope that you find joy in this practice, because that's really the most important part. That's what will keep you coming back to all of these embodiment practices, is that it's about exploring and finding joy in your body. So thank you for having a sense of humor with us. And thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Peace, joy, love, and light. Namaste.